cost effectiveness, you know, so and they get
I mean,
more audits done.
It still is cost effective though, because a quality audit is a week long and costs anything about sending 2 or 3 people costs. So I mean, that's what pharma companies are comparing their audit costs to. So like a $3,000 audit is not expensive to them.
Which is great.
Yeah.
With the exception of Takeda just cut costs.
Sure.
Cut our services.
Yeah, but they do their own audits. So like there is more, and like I do think if we offered, hey, here's an audit of Baxter, which is a major contract manufacturer, like they would probably just grab it here and there and further reduce their costs by not sending people to the audit. Right?
Yeah, because I think if it was made more cost efficient, I mean, like I said, it's the retail market, right, is obviously trying to make sure that this is
as cheap as possible.
As cheap as possible.
Yeah.
If we want to be able to leverage the same auditor pool and make sure that they go through the additional training,
Yeah.
you know, this might be a way that maybe the pharma companies may audit 100% of their supply chain versus spot checking.
Well, and the other difference too is that audits are typically not supplier paid in pharma.
Okay.
So that's a difference. I guess that's the other thing too. Is like I do want to kind of lay out like, okay, here's who we would be auditing. Here's what a pharmaceutical supply chain looks like for Scan to get their thoughts on that as well. Because like what you'd be looking at is you'd be primarily looking at an API manufacturer, which is like kind of the raw ingredients that go into pharma. They're sending like just big kind of tanks or whatever, like to a contract manufacturer. And that's kind of like the key group that we would be auditing to this contract manufacturer. So it's like Baxter's a big one. There's a few others. Let's go find some names. But those would be like your Scan factories, basically, right?
Well, and it doesn't matter who pays for the audit. They can pay whoever wants to pay for it.
The CMOs will refuse to pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah. They also made part of the difficult. So that's part of the issue is that like these suppliers have a lot more leverage than your average apparel manufacturer in China does because they can't just go to a new one, right? Like they have to use Baxter, and Baxter knows that. And so we've seen like audit requests refused because it's not in a contract. We've seen, hey, we won't implement any of these corrective actions, or we'll only implement this one, and this one.
Okay.
So it's just a different beast, really. The other side of it, so once you go to a CMO, you then have finished product. You can then, then go potentially to a logistics service provider like a DHL that gets it to a distributor. So the distributor then is who in each country is selling the drugs, basically. So that's like your McKesson or your Amerisource in the U.S. Phoenix is an example of one, or Movianto is an example of one that's in the in Germany or Hungary or Italy. Those would be the other people that we want to audit because everybody's using the same ones for those as well. So you're looking at CMOs and distributors would probably be the main two groups that we want to audit. And then once it goes from distributor to like a pharmacy or a hospital, obviously we would audit that. And then LSP is basically in between. So yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the day, right? It's just somebody has to request a location to be audited.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who.
Yeah.
It's just we get a request and says, hey, here's the name of the location that we want to have on audit conducted.
Yeah.
Here's the point contacts.
Yeah.
And here's the person who needs to pay for it.
Yeah.
And then the audit firms go and
so what
do all that.
and what RX does now is they do like almost like they're like, okay, X or Y company wants to initiate an audit, who else wants to join, and then they don't do it.
Which is a pain in the ass.
Which is crazy, yeah.
This is why it's like, because Shireen was trying to get me to help facilitate all that. I'm like, this is a cluster.
Yeah.
I'm like.
So I think like the Scan model makes a lot more sense, obviously with some changes for like the way that pharma companies typically work, but I just think that the Scan model makes a lot more sense than the RX is trying to do it.
The question would be, the way RX 360
we could also audit I left out API. We could audit as well, but usually a lot of companies don't audit that far down. They don't really care. Just like CMOs and distributors. So.
Okay. So the sharing factor, right? That's where RX360 overcomplicated the hell out of everything. Trying to get everybody to split costs because nobody, and then whether or not somebody opted in later to be able to see that audit too.
Yeah.
And then how did they handle the fees from that perspective? I mean, that just became a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
So would they have issues, going into a repository that somebody can search those audit results?
I mean, RX360 has it, so I don't think so. I think especially...
Well, RX360 controls it, but the membership can search the repository to see any audits.
Yes, they can.
So,
but I think it would also be less sensitive around security than it is. So for the quality audits they do, they're looking at a very specific process. Like they're auditing like one process to make one type of thing, a vial or whatever.
Okay.
So that's a bit more like sensitive. I think with security, it's just building, right? So it's like, it's less sensitive. Unless you start looking at and even then, it's like, I don't know. Do you want to start looking at? So let's say there's a this is like a real life example. There's a facility that handles a distributor that handles like 4 or 5 different companies, but for only one of them they do like DEA controlled drugs. So then, do we look at the DEA cage? How do we figure that out? That sort of stuff. And then also, I don't know if we want to just send, Billy Bob Auditor to go do like a DEA compliance audit. Probably not. So we may just say we don't want to do anything that's controlled. But
well, what changes then differently, right? Would there be a different set of questions?
It's a whole lot of really specific requirements based on the drug and how much you have of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
like most pharma companies hire a person whose sole job is DEA compliance.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you don't want just anybody then.
Yeah. And it's usually a former DEA person.
Okay.
So.
Sorry, this is way messier than it just. There's like a cream filling in this too, and it's just. So yeah, because that was from a security perspective. That's why I was figuring out. If RX360 continued to maintain the control of their quality, right, and we figured out how that partnership would work, where they could then, leverage scan, or they don't even have to, like you're saying, just getting the pharma companies on board.
Yeah.
And then having Scott, where he's just you don't have to worry about initiating all this stuff because it's a bloody hell trying to
it's a mess.
Organize all this.
And it sounds like a lot of audits just don't end up happening because they don't get enough sponsors. So if people just realize you sell to Baxter the idea that you do this audit once and then, because a lot of these companies, a lot of these CMOs, they're doing 100, 150 audit days a year between quality and everything else. It's nuts.
Okay, but
Quality,
from a security
FDA,
perspective, yeah.
Security, all of it.
Okay, so then out of all the different pharma companies that use Baxter, what is that kind of number in shared perspective?
It's probably about. It's everybody. it's probably realistically 15, 20, 25 companies. I can take this call real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Julie, how are you? Good. Sorry I missed you yesterday. Yeah, we did a little phone tag. Oh, that's what I did that yesterday finally too. I was like, hang on, is this Massachusetts number? Yeah, okay, that's Julie. So, yeah. Yeah, I know, it's all these spam calls just absolutely ruined your ability to use your phone. It's terrible, so yeah. So yeah, I know you wanted to chat a little bit about the call yesterday and then kind of plan moving forward. I apologize. I told Paul hey, let's get kind of a prioritized list, just top 5 things. And I feel like we got there by the end potentially, but yeah, I just apologies for not having that sort of up front. So yeah, I do think that I liked actually your suggestion about for training specifically, if we can do that remotely, that's something that we can just do and take care of, right? And then leave it to be translated into Portuguese and then have the rest of everybody else do it as well. In time, as long as we get management to do it, I think that's good. And then I do think that given the constraints on like Danielle at the time, we just need to get, and I think in the long term this will work better anyways, like to have shipping and receiving be responsible for their piece, IT be responsible for their piece, security to be responsible for their piece, rather than trying to run everything through Danielle, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 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 Yeah, to bring to them. Yeah. 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 Okay. Just really push as much as possible. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 No, yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to speak with Paul yesterday, but I'll give him a call now and let him know to get that over to you guys as soon as possible. And really just needs to be like, a page with kind of like, here's the 5 most important things sort of organized in terms of how the order in which you should probably attack it, right? That would probably be most helpful for you guys, right? Yeah. 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 Okay. All right. Sounds good. We did. Yes. 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 Correct. Yeah. So I'm working with Scott to plan for the 27th. So we've agreed on that date. We've got somebody going out there on the 27th, and then pretty soon after that we should have a readout. So yeah, I apologize for sort of the lack of preparation on our part. That's not all right. And I'll get with Paul and make sure that we get an organized list over to you guys. All right. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Thanks. Yep. No worries. Bye. yet, no.
Just ping me again on LinkedIn.
Hey Paul, this is Tony. Give me a call back when you can. I just wanted to chat through a few things on TJX and sort of next steps for that. I know that they're going to visit the factory on Wednesday, so we wanted to try and get something over to them by then. Give me a call back when you can, either on Teams or my phone number 571-528-8604. Thanks. Bye. Did he reach out to you? Oh, yeah. I haven't reached out to him yet. How long has he been there? Like not too long, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to like pounce on him like immediately after he gets there or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, he, you know, like he first reached out to me end of June, and then he just now got back to me.
Yeah.
He just said that, you know, he's like, my unemployment ended. I'm not working at XB in Chandler. Let's catch up. employee way back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes name dropping does.
You know.
Yeah, if you can ever, I mean, if you ever was able to get sponsored for that as the program.
Yeah, I've looked into it.
That
It
was
looks
a
pretty
cool
sweet.
program.
Yeah. Did you actually go there? Oh wow.
Yeah, spent 2 weeks there, like 1 week in the beginning and 1 week at the end.
Nice.
Which is a 1 year long internship type, not intern, but like 1 year program.
Yeah.
Certification program. And let me tell you what, I fell in love with the damn school. I fell in love with
It's at
the
Georgetown,
people.
right?
I fell in love with
Yeah, Georgetown's really nice.
the instructors. Because let me tell you what, the caliber of the people teaching those courses is like nothing I've ever experienced before. These people were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I looked at how expensive that
Yeah,
school was.
I applied to go
and
there for undergrad and didn't get in, so
Yeah.
for the best would have been way more expensive.
It was like what, 60 a year?
Yeah.
I mean,
Back when I moved, it was a little less when I was when I was
okay, so maybe
applying, but
55.
40. Yeah.
I mean, you know, but
But
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like I said, I could not believe I was walking around with like
But it
big
is
hearts
really,
in my eyes.
It is really nice, yeah. My mom went there for her undergrad.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I wish I would have. I mean, I was never exposed to that type of thing, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm glad I wasn't when I was trying to choose my schools because I would have never been able to afford me to
Yeah.
go because I couldn't even afford. I was accepted into Purdue's pre-vet program,
Yeah.
and I couldn't afford to go out of state at that point.
Yeah.
And
That's why I ended up going to Georgia because it was free. So it's
yeah.
hard to turn that down.
Oh, well, and why would you? I mean,
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
end of the
yeah.
day, you know, and the other thing is, it's majority of people who go to school, I mean, you're getting a piece of paper.
Yeah,
You're not
exactly.
actually
Yeah,
learning,
exactly.
I mean, but that's the difference I thought about when I was at Georgetown with just that blink. The instructors actually cared
Yeah.
and really integrated the lessons and the curriculum into like real life conversations.
Yeah.
And I felt how much it made an impact in that regard. And my undergrad and my graduate program had nothing on
Yeah.
any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but I'm still paying for all of that still too, so I couldn't even imagine if I was at Georgetown.
Yeah.
For that. Graduate program are killing stupid expensive.
Today, do they do an ISMA thing at like Northwestern?
They
now,
do
too?
have another one. Yeah, they expanded.
Northwestern's really nice too.
Yeah, I just don't think it's the same.
Yeah.
But Northwestern definitely has a different element to it, which I think is great that they're expanding the program. And that's also to be able to get your foot in the door. If you were able to do some collaboration with ISMA, they have a great benchmarking. They literally do benchmarking surveys throughout the membership,
Oh.
and it's different because it's only
I
the
guess
most
I didn't
C-suite people.
Yeah, I thought that was like all ISMA did was just
Education.
Yeah.
No. This is, you can only apply to be a member if you're the most senior level person within
Yeah.
the organization for security.
Yeah.
And they get together and they're literally benchmarking, you know, concepts and everything against each other.
That's pretty cool.
And that would be a cool way to partner with them.
Yeah, I think Mark did that too. Yeah, I've talked to people who did it since
That's when I pinged Dan and I had Dan help me because I did it on the value of participating in the CTPAP program and talking about risk assessment.
Yeah.
And Dan helped me. This is before it was even screened. It was even available to organizations. It was
Yeah.
only great
Yeah.
at that point in time. And I'm like, seriously, I'm like, why is this not available for companies?
Yeah.
I'm like, the amount of work I'm having to do right now
Yeah.
to be able to get not even a degree of this information by myself is
Yeah.
like a pain in the ass. I mean, I used to have like a laundry list of websites that I would have to ping everything for and filter out all the travel stuff, but
Yeah.
I also was responsible for travel security too. So
Yeah. That's what we're currently. I've got a call with Len at Bordis today. That's like what he's doing. It's like not so much for CGPAP, but he's like, we get all this intelligence, subscribe to everything. Like none of it's any good for supply chain. And I'm like, yeah.
well, and that was the other challenge. Like I said, with the meeting for tomorrow, I was like, those guys, you know, what tries to try to compare that. That's their source.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but it's not. That's not
Yeah.
the holistic view that you're
Yeah.
thinking you want us for supply chain.
Yeah.
right after, like shortly after we moved their location downtown Chicago, along with a lot of other people that they didn't want to make that commute. I mean, they used to drive to Oak Brook. I mean, they live in Bloomingdale, and it's like now to go to downtown, it's just like that's a young person's game. And my other aunt retired from head of their operations just like 2 years ago, and my uncle, I think it was about 4 years ago that he retired. It's like, you know what, after doing my internship, it was definitely interesting to see McDonald's as an organization versus a fast food restaurant. I mean, it was such a cool experience.
Well, like a big part of the business too is kind of just like aren't there cases where like McDonald's owns the land, but not
They're big
franchise?
they're big into the real estate. That's when they started transitioning because that's where the money
That's where the money is.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what made it interesting because when my uncle first offered to get me a job to do internship with their security team, I'm like security officers, McDonald's, I'm like, seriously. And then that's when I started learning about the corporate, security, and that's when I started learning about global security. I guess, but I'm 20 years old, and I'm like, holy crap, and seeing what the real estate department did, like everything that went into getting a franchise and understanding all of the different protocols that you had to go through. Hell, just their campus in Oakland was freaking amazing. The way that they train.
Do they still have the campus there? They just moved.
They moved. Some people downtown. I think they're closing down some of the areas in there. I don't know what degree that is anymore, but yeah. But I mean, they have their own lodge, where they used to put people up and where they had everybody in for the manager training. The fast food restaurant that they had in there where they did their training, they would burn and turn through whole lines of people, in like seconds. It was almost like you were waiting less than a minute from like, from the back of the line to the front of the line, getting your order, and they just had things rocking and rolling. They would pay for a bus fare for their employees, these employees they didn't want anything to work. And they really took good care of everybody. Yeah, so did you ever watch that one movie about McDonald's?
The founder?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The concept.
I would imagine that McDonald's as a company is probably not a huge fan of it.
I'm kind of curious about that. I don't know.
It makes it look pretty bad.
I mean, it's definitely interesting. There's worse out there, I'm sure, but I'd say I'm sure there definitely is worse out there.
When did they first move the headquarters to Chicago? I mean, that's like way back, right?
Oh, you mean like when they had moved it to Oak Brook?
Or just, I mean, I guess in Chicago in general, because like then they started in California.
That's
But it must have been like, they must have moved here like in the 60s or something.
it was. I'm not remembering the history very well. But I just remember, that forever.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit further south, southern Illinois a little bit, but you're right. I mean, it's where did they start? Picking them up.
Yeah. But it's kind of like if you're a food company of like any size, you kind of have to be in Chicago or something. The airport, like nearby, that's where.
Have you experienced the atrocity of the season?
Yeah. I mean, like, I try to avoid it, but yeah, I have been like that's there's the one that opened in Scottsdale, like it was packed.
It was.
For like the first 3 months that it was open.
It was.
Wild. Like,
Yeah,
it's not that good.
No, that was the funny thing. Like we stood in, we went in line, like months after it opened, right?
Yeah.
And we still waited in